More chances for snow tonight coming up, where we have winter weather advisories issued, what we can expect for the Thursday morning drive, and also how's Christmas week looking. Your forecast is coming up.
It was a massive undertaking clearing the roads from last night's storm, and it's still not finished.
We're doing the best we can, but it does take time.
How crews are working to get ahead as yet another storm moves in for your morning commute. She vanished from her Snow College dormitory.
Because it's like, she should be here. She should be sitting with us.
As the search for this young woman becomes more desperate, we hear from those close to her.
I don't want to fight with you guys.
Officers say this confrontation with a difficult suspect was being handled by the book until their chief did something they could not ignore.
He needs to be fired. This is what's wrong with law enforcement.
Why officers decided they needed to report the chief, and how some feel they've been retaliated against for crossing the thin blue line.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13 News at 9 starts right now.
Much of the Beehive State was digging out of all that snow we saw overnight, and tonight we are gearing up for round 2 in just a matter of hours. We have team coverage for you on this winter weather alert. Thanks for joining us, everyone. I'm Kelly Chapman. Let's get right to Fox 13 meteorologist Allison Krogan with the timing of more snow and where it will fall. Allison.
It is knocking on our doorstep. First, let's go ahead and look back at the last 24 hours or so. Impressive snow totals. Cottonwood Heights, 15 inches of snow. Same thing for Tooele. Sugar House, 13 inches of snow. North Salt Lake, West Valley, Payson, all 12 inches of snow, so right at a foot. Logan, 9, and the Salt Lake City Airport, 8.5 inches of snow. Downtown Salt Lake saw 11 inches of snow. Our next weather system, as I mentioned, is approaching right now. We've got some snow along I-80 near Elko, and we have winter weather advisories that have been issued out ahead of this for the impacts for Thursday into Friday for northern Utah, for the mountains and the northern Wasatch Front just north of Salt Lake, all the way up to the Idaho border. Current temps, chilly out there. It's about 20 degrees for Ogden, Salt Lake, and Provo. Some very cold mornings ahead. As you wake up along the Wasatch Front, we're going to end up with a chance for some snow first thing tomorrow morning. What you can expect for that morning drive coming up.
Allison, this last storm was nasty out on the roads. In fact, at last check, UHP troopers handled more than 230 crashes statewide and tallied over 500 vehicles that slid off the road or needed an assist. Snowplow drivers all across northern Utah had a very busy day, and many will be back at work in just a few hours from now. Fox 13's John Franke is live tonight in Salt Lake City with a look at some of the challenges snowplow drivers are facing. John.
Well, hey, Kelly, what's the last thing that anybody wants to do after working a double shift? Well, how about working another 16-hour day? But that's exactly what these plow crews are preparing to do with more snow on the way.
We haven't seen one like this for a while.
So much snow in so little time kept Salt Lake County plow crews busy all day Wednesday.
We work 16 hours. We work the full amount of time trying to get to everybody as soon as we can.
In the early evening, crews returned to the yard to wrap up their day, some 16 hours after they clocked in.
Yeah, their shift starts again at midnight if they're needed.
And with more snow expected, it's likely they will be needed.
In the area of the Salt Lake County plows, we do have everybody out. We're doing the best we can, but it does take time.
The heavy snowfall overnight had Udot crews playing catch-up to have roads ready by the morning commute.
The storm was maybe a little bit even more intense than we were anticipating. When that hit, that was a challenge for our crews, but fortunately it did hit, late last night, and that gave them a little bit of time to get up on the plowing efforts in time for when people actually did have to leave for work.
Now round 2 is approaching, meaning a quick turnaround for all these drivers.
There are people that could not have gotten out of their subdivision today if a plow hadn't have come by.
So you may be wondering how roads are prioritized. For UDOT, of course, it is the interstates, but for municipal crews like cities and counties, it's these main roads like this that lead to interstates or hospitals. So if you live on that small cul-de-sac in Mill Creek, for example, you might be patient and just wait for your road to be cleared because it is not on the top of that priority list. Live tonight in Salt Lake City, John Franke, Fox 13 News, Utah.
We appreciate those drivers. John, thanks. It certainly doesn't happen very often, but crashes with snowplows plows do occur once in a while. So what should you do if a Udot snowplow damages your car? Udot recommends you call 911 right away. For insurance claims, you can call 801-965-4000. We've got that number there on your screen. Do keep in mind, however, in some areas, overnight parking is prohibited during the winter months for safety reasons, also to allow for thorough snow removal. Don't forget, you can track winter weather conditions wherever you are, right from the palm of your hand. All you have to do is scan this QR code on your screen. You can do it right now. It will download the Fox 13 First Alert Weather app. You can also find it in the App Store or Google Play. The app does have real-time information on severe weather throughout the state of Utah. Also, our Fox 13 morning team will keep you up to date always on your weather and traffic as you head out the door. Tune in to Good Day Utah tomorrow morning starting at 4:30 a.m. In other news tonight, police now asking for your help in finding this Snow College student. It's been almost 48 hours now since 19-year-old Madeline Allen was last seen. Fox 13's Emily Tenser has more on the search happening now in Ephraim and what her friends have to say about her disappearance.
This is the place Madeline Allen was last seen on Monday night. The college says it's been all hands on deck ever since her roommate reported her missing. Local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies are involved, interviewing people, looking through phone records, doing everything they can to bring Maddie home. The Snow Hall dorm security cameras capture Madeline Allen leaving at 9:22 Monday night, heading out into the cold, carrying a plastic bag, dressed in a white jacket and skirt. Freshman Ariana Maston has spent the last 2 days worrying about her friend's whereabouts.
I had theater today, actually, and it was just so different, like, without her being there, because it's like, she should be here. She should be sitting with us.
She says it's not in Maddie's character to just leave overnight like that, especially during finals week.
She would not just take off like that. Like, that's not Maddie at all.
Snow College's Public Safety and Police Department is taking the lead on the investigation. It's also working with several county sheriff departments, state troopers, and even the FBI.
It's so hard when you're not sure if they're okay and when they just kind of drop off and you're not sure where they're at or if they're okay.
Dean of Students Mike Daniels doesn't want to speculate on the suspicious nature of this case, but he says there are red flags. When Tuesday night's snowstorm rolled in, he thought of Maddie, missing in an outfit not equipped for freezing temperatures.
You hope that she's safe. You hope that she's warm. Last night, before I went to bed, I just hope she was comfortable and had peace and was comfortable and safe.
Snow College believes this is an isolated incident and that others are not in danger. Now the Badger community waits for Maddie's return and prays she's okay.
This never happens here. And so that's why it was so alarming. That's why we want to find her, and that's why we hope she's safe.
Anyone who saw anything suspicious or anyone who knows anything is urged to call police. That number is 435-283-7170. Reporting at Snow College in Ephraim, Emily Tenser, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Tonight, we're learning more, also getting a new look at the fatal police shooting of 20-year-old Anai Joker on December 1st in Taylorsville near 41st South and 36th West. And we do want to warn you, what we're about to show you is disturbing and violent.
There's a child in that car. Don't put it in danger. Exit the vehicle. Do it now.
West Valley City Police shared a pre-recorded summary of what their officers say happened that night, showing edited versions of body camera recordings, also while explaining the procedure for officer-involved critical incidents. Police were investigating Joker for multiple crimes, including rape of a minor and domestic violence robbery. After a 9-month-old baby in the car with Joker was passed to an officer, police say they negotiated with him for 30 minutes before shooting pepper balls into the car. When Joker opened the passenger side door, officers say he had a gun in his hand, and that's when shots were fired. Joker was taken to a hospital where he later died. 2 officers, including a 5-year veteran detective with West Valley City Police, were shot. They have since recovered. The Salt Lake County District Attorney's Office is investigating if the use of force was lawful. To see the unedited versions of body camera video, go to fox13now.com.
Coming up on Fox 13 News at 9.
Police officers say they are paying the price for reporting the chief. as he still refuses to acknowledge the investigation that sidelined him for more than a month.
I just want to know what happened.
Which never happened.
We have the video, sir.
We'll show you why the comment he gave us contradicts video obtained only by Fox 13.
Winter weather pushed state workers and many schools into remote work today. How it went and how the policy could play out in the future.
That's what neighbors do. They help neighbors.
And people coming together to help each other dig out of the snow. See how neighbors came together and made the best of the storm. Local auto body shops have been busy ever since the storm. At Unique Auto Body in South Jordan, there are 130 parking spots, and their lot right now is completely full. They're expecting an influx of cars over the next few days after this recent snow, and a lot of these repairs will be delayed due to a backlog of parts and the ongoing supply shortage.
Right now in the industry, there's more work than the typical year anyways. I think coming out of COVID, there's a lot of people that maybe opted not to repair during the harder times of COVID, and now they're all opting into repair.
Thomas Kirkpatrick, who you just heard from there, says to go slow, take your time when driving in a snowstorm, because if you ever do get into an accident, you could be waiting a long time to get your car back. Well, the snow was also an opportunity for many to just help each other out. Fox 13's Spencer Joseph found some acts of kindness this morning after all that snowfall overnight.
It was a busy morning.
Yeah, unexpected, I guess.
For residents of Salt Lake City. This morning's storm caught some out in the cold.
And I didn't realize it was going to be like this. School's delayed for 2 hours. The gym was closed, so I couldn't go to the gym.
This is heavy.
Many were out early, shoveling and blowing snow, like Genevieve.
Just making sure we can get the tiny Fiat out if we need to.
Down the road from her home, cars were getting stuck thanks to a tree blocking the road. But other residents were quick to offer a helping hand. The tree just barely missed this car, too.
Yeah, pretty lucky. That was a very close call, I would say.
Many were lending a helping hand to their neighbors.
It's the best feeling ever. This is the time of giving. It's great.
But then there's Howie Yee.
That's why I was driving around. I was helping people that were stuck.
Who went quite a bit extra.
I saw people needed help. I just can come help them.
Howie's mission this morning was to help cut down every tree branch damaged on his street.
Something you can't ever take back is your time. I gave him my time to help him, and it's a good feeling.
After getting his own yard cleaned up, he went from neighbor
there you go.
to neighbor, helping out.
We've been working.
Armed only with a saw.
A cordless one would be nice, but I think this has more power.
So whether it's a helpful Howie,
I'm glad I'm off today,
or a helping hand out of the snow, Salt Lake City's spirit of helping out was alive and well on this cold winter day.
That's what neighbors do. They help neighbors.
So one of the things we definitely saw while going around the Salt Lake City community was downed tree branches for sure. So the cleanup is far from over, especially with this new storm moving in. In downtown, Spencer Joseph, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Howie, you are a good guy.
Yes.
Fantastic neighbor. A lot of people could use an extra pair of hands, or 4 or 6 or 8 this morning, Allison.
I had some neighbors who cleared my driveway this morning, so shout out to Neil and Corey. We had a hard time with our snowblower that was just the snow was so heavy that our
thick,
snowblower just couldn't handle it.
Heavy water weight.
We had to bring in the big guns. 22 degrees here in Salt Lake. We still have some snow on the ground, but guess what? As Spencer just mentioned, another system is on the way. Temperatures are right now close to 20 degrees. Get this, it's actually going to be a little bit warmer when you first wake up tomorrow morning than it is right now. So up in the mountains, single digits up into Evanston, 12 degrees for Heber. Logan right now, 12 degrees, 21 for Tooele, and down into central Utah, Panguitch and Bryce Canyon. Look at that, 7 degrees in Panguitch and a lonely degree in Bryce Canyon. St. George currently 35. Here's what you can expect. Our next storm is moving in, but it's still slick from our last storm. The problem was we got so much snow, many locations seeing more than a foot today across many of our valleys of last night into this morning. Some of that started to melt with the sun today, and we have some icy conditions as our temperatures are going to be cool here the next few hours. This next system is going to impact northern and central Utah, but the bulk of the snow will be up in the mountains and north of Salt Lake City. Valleys mainly looking at 1 to 4 inches of snow, mountains 6 to 12, but we do have some valleys along the northern Wasatch Front that will be higher than that expected total. Satellite and radar here across the region. We've got some snow starting to move in right now just west of the Great Salt Lake and north of I-80, but the Wasatch Front still dry. Here's where we have that snow currently just north of Wendover through Wells along I-80 out towards Elko. And then across southern Utah, we do have clear sky and not as breezy conditions as we did earlier in the day. So overnight temps, I paused this at 11 o'clock because you'll notice we'll be in the low 20s here along the Wasatch Front, but look what happens as we take you through the morning hours. We're going to warm up a little bit. So when you get up at 7 o'clock, close to 25 to 30 for Ogden, Salt Lake, and Provo, waking up to light snow for many of you. Now we do have winter weather advisories that have been issued for the northern Wasatch Front, so we have a better chance for that snow just north of the I-215 northern interchange all the way up to the Idaho border. Those valleys are expected to perform a little bit better. Ogden 31 degrees tomorrow, snow. Salt Lake 33 degrees, snow. Provo 30, also snow. And then as we look into central and southern Utah, Cedar City 37, Richfield 38 degrees, a chance for some snow during the afternoon hours. And for St. George, partly cloudy, 46. Across eastern Utah, 40s for Moab, Price 30 for a high with mostly cloudy sky. And for Vernal tomorrow, mostly cloudy, 28 degrees. Our chance of precipitation here in Salt Lake is scattered to widespread for the day on Thursday into Thursday night. Some lingering widely scattered into Friday morning. A break this weekend. More chances for precipitation middle of next week, which is the week leading up to Christmas, a big travel week. We'll get more into that later in the hour. St. George, you're in the 40s through this weekend. 50s return Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week. Overnight lows mostly in the 20s for the next several nights here along the Wasatch Front. Our temperatures are going to be very cold through the weekend, especially at night when we see some less clouds. Mostly clear sky will drop into the mid-teens. But until then, chances for snow. Coming up later in the hour, I'll let you know how much more snow you can expect.
Allison, thank you so much. Still ahead, how you can help Afghan refugees as they go through the humanitarian parole application process. Plus, how healthcare workers brought some holiday cheer to babies in the NICU at Primary Children's Hospital today. You got to see this. Stay with us. Welcome back. Tonight, we are learning more about a massive fire that destroyed a home and damaged 2 others in West Valley City this afternoon. It happened near 3500 South and 4400 West. When crews arrived, the flames were already burning through the roof, making it impossible to salvage. Drivers could see the massive plume of smoke for miles on the freeway. One person was home at the time of the fire. However, they were able to get out safely.
The main part of the fire was right next to the adjoining house. The other house sustained some damage to the siding. Crews were able to hold the fire just to one structure so it didn't spread too far into the second one.
The cost of the damage to the home is unknown at this time. The cause of the fire is still under investigation. For the first time, we're hearing from the student suing Utah State University, saying the school mishandled her sexual assault case back in 2019. In her lawsuit, Katriana Flint says a recording of the university's police chief shows the school has not improved their approach. In that recording, a man believed to be Chief Earl Morris is heard warning a room of football players about having sex with women who are in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, saying the women will often tell their bishops that sex was non-consensual because it's, quote, easier.
These people who are kind of in leadership positions are discussing this matter in such a dismissive way was really painful, to say the least.
In a statement to the Salt Lake Tribune, Utah State said that it had not heard a full recording of Morris's alleged comments, but that, quote, it is important to USU that our messaging and trainings reflect the university's efforts to prevent sexual misconduct, reduce barriers to reporting, and respond to it appropriately when it occurs. University leaders went on to say the transcribed statements as presented by the Tribune were not consistent with their trainings on this matter. New tonight, one of the community groups helping Afghan refugees is now asking for your help. The Utah Muslim Civic League is hosting legal clinics for refugees to get humanitarian parole applications processed with the federal government. What they need right now are sponsors. Those are people who are willing to help vouch for refugees in the application process.
Our community has been overwhelmingly welcoming to these refugees overall, and I am only trying to identify a critical need, so whoever can should come forward, because we do have clothes, we do have other things at the moment. The need for sponsor is not getting covered. So it would be amazing to have a group of folks come together to sponsor these families.
To be a sponsor, you do need to provide some financial documentation for the paperwork, but you're not obligated to care for the refugees. We do have a link on how you can help on our website, fox13now.com.
It's taboo to tattletale on your administration.
This video showing the chief putting his hands on a suspect's neck is something Heber City refused to give Fox 13, but we got it anyway.
And you're gonna do what I tell you, and if you don't, I'm gonna fire you.
After the break, we'll show you what the chief, the sheriff, and the mayor did after officers spoke up.
It could be the end of snow days for Utah students and state employees. Tens of thousands worked and learned from home today because of the storm.
I think it's still a little premature to be able to make those kinds of determinations.
But how well did it work? Coming up.
It's taboo to tattletale on your administration.
You were under investigation for putting your hand on someone's throat. I just want to know what happened.
We could debate all day long. Right? Did he put his hands on his throat? Did he not put his hands? Was it an accident? Was it intentional? Right? Did he squeeze? Did he not squeeze?
He needs to be fired. This is what's wrong with law enforcement.
Earlier this year, the chief of the Heber City Police Department was placed on administrative leave, accused of choking a suspect while placing him in the back of a police car. For months, even after the chief was cleared of all wrongdoing, Heber City has refused to talk about the case, release public records, or even explain why the chief was under investigation. Tonight, in a Fox 13 News exclusive, you will be among the very first people outside of the department to see the body camera video. As Fox 13 investigative reporter Adam Hurwitz explains how officers feel that they've been retaliated against for crossing the thin blue line.
Camera on.
Man, please have my glasses and my shoes. Thank you. I don't want to fight with you guys.
On March 31st, paramedics were treating Jesse James Rodriguez. Minutes earlier, his wife called to report he was drunk and wanted him out of the house. When Heber City police got there, officers say Rodriguez tried to grab one of their guns.
I will stop you.
Come on. There you go. Chief Dave Booth was on scene. He says he was done being patient and decided it was time to take Rodriguez to jail. Officers say until this point, everything they saw was appropriate. But watch the chief's right hand as he struggles to get Rodriguez into the back of the police car.
I couldn't hear or tell if the suspect was breathing. Couldn't hear or tell. I did see that it was a grab and there was pressure placed on the trachea.
This man is a veteran Heber City police officer who left the department but is still too nervous to reveal his name or face. He is not one of the officers who reported the chief, but agrees with those who did, especially after reviewing body camera video.
We have an obligation to police ourselves. Nobody's above the law, and nobody's allowed to do whatever they want. I don't care if you're the chief of police. You can't do that to somebody that's handcuffed in the back of a police car. You can't do that.
Absolutely, it's a case that should be reviewed, especially in light of the position that the department took shortly before this happened regarding any sort of neck or choke restraint.
Chris Burbank used to be chief of the Salt Lake City Police Department. He's referring to an email sent out by Heber City's use of force sergeant months prior to the incident, reminding officers that any type of choking technique is not allowed. In fact, he says Chief Dave Booth should not have even touched the suspect, especially with so many other officers standing around.
As the administrator, I never wanted to put my officers in a position to have to investigate me. That is just a horrible position to be in. But if it were to happen, boy, that is going to be the most open, transparent investigation that has ever been in the history of the organization, because I would never want anyone to accuse me of somehow covering up.
Heber City has not been transparent. Even after Chief Booth was cleared of wrongdoing, the city has refused to release body camera video or even explain why the chief was under investigation. All the video in this story has been obtained independently by Fox 13.
Absolutely, it is public information and should have been released.
You were under investigation for putting your hand on someone's throat. I just want to know what happened.
Which never happened.
We have the video, sir. As the chief continues to deny what happened, we found the comment he gave us contradicts what he told state investigators.
Obviously, there was some force used to get him in the car. Would it be surprising to you if there was body cam or dash cam footage that showed your hand on his neck at one point?
No, I don't think it'd be surprising. I just viewed it as something I've done literally hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of times.
In August, days after the state cleared him of criminal wrongdoing, the city sent out an email stating the chief is back to work because whatever the complaints were against him, they were not substantiated, found to be baseless and without merit.
When you say baseless and without merit, you're just calling somebody a liar, and you're saying that this never happened.
State investigators tell Fox 13 they cannot explain the city's email because they never told Heber City the complaint was baseless or without merit.
Now that he's survived this, he was going to come after us, and in any way that he could.
The day after the email, multiple officers tell Fox 13 the mayor called a mandatory police department meeting.
She was very upset. Somebody in our agency had gone to the media. She told us, and I quote her, and this is Colleen Potter from Heber City, that she believes in karma, and karma's a bitch.
That is unethical. That is unethical, and whoever implied, suggested, hinted at it, should no longer be employed.
City Attorney Mark Smedley verified the mayor's comments, but said he could not remember the context. The mayor has ignored all requests for comment.
And then they saved the chief for last. And this guy's angry when he's talking to us. I'm gonna make you guys tell me who did this. I'm gonna make you. And you're gonna do what I tell you. And if you don't, I'm gonna fire you.
It seemed very clear to me that the city's reaction to the complaint against the chief was violating Utah law. It was retaliation.
Cameron Platt is the attorney representing Sergeant Jason Jarvie, one of the officers who reviewed the body camera video and filed a written complaint. He says whether the chief's use of force in this case was excessive is up for debate, but the law requiring officers to report concerns is not.
They could be criminally culpable for covering up. The way that the city treated it and reacted is much more important and much worse. If it was such a minor use of force, why so much effort to cover it up?
Sergeant Jarvie says his supervisors strongly encouraged him to take a demotion after reporting the chief. He has since left the department, quote, solely due to the city's retaliatory actions. Jarvie has provided Fox 13 a copy of his personnel file, showing he has never been disciplined. As part of the case, the mayor also placed both him and the chief under an internal investigation conducted by the sheriff's office.
This is done by his friend, Jared Rigby, the sheriff. They're friends.
Both the city and sheriff's office have refused to provide copies of the completed investigation. However, videos obtained by Fox 13 show Sheriff Jared Rigby repeatedly spoke on behalf of the city, not as a neutral third party, sometimes lecturing or threatening officers rather than asking questions.
There is no excessive use of force. And so your perception is wrong. What Dave Booth did is not even use of force. It really comes down to the future, your future in the police department.
Sure.
So you can dig in your heels and say,
And that's not what I'm doing.
This is how I feel and no one's going to change. And okay, that's your decision. You just won't get any trusted positions having to do with DT and use of force and sergeant and those kinds of things because you're not willing to learn and be open-minded to it.
I cannot believe you would even wander into that area. That is the creation of the thin blue line.
I'm here to tell you right now, they'll never tell on him again. They'll never do anything like that again. This will never happen again in Heber City. This is what's wrong with law enforcement.
Sheriff Jared Rigby has also ignored our requests for comment and refuses to provide a copy of his internal affairs investigation. Multiple officers have already left the department because of this case. Others say they're in the process of trying to do the same. Reporting in studio tonight, Adam Herbets, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Thanks, Adam. If you have questions about tonight's investigation, Adam will be live on Facebook coming up in just a few minutes. He will try to answer as many questions as possible. Also, if you have a story you'd like the Fox 13 News investigative team to look into, email iteam@fox13now.com or call the tip line. The number is 801-536-1314. Coming up, new details tonight in the investigation into the January 6th riots at the U.S. Capitol. What one congressman texted to a prominent Trump administration member that's making headlines. In national news, we now know Republican Congressman Jim Jordan from Ohio sent at least one of the texts revealed this week by the January 6th Select Committee. A spokesman confirms Representative Jordan sent the message to then White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows back on January 5th. It outlined a legal theory that Vice President Mike Pence, as Senate President, had the authority to stop the certification of the 2020 election. Now, Jordan's office confirmed he forwarded a text to Meadows that was sent to him by Joseph Schmitz, a former Department of Defense Inspector General. More national news now for you. Former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin pleaded guilty in the civil rights case against him in federal court today. As part of a new plea deal, Chauvin confirmed to prosecutors he held George Floyd on the ground after he became unresponsive. Chauvin was convicted of murdering Floyd earlier this year. He's currently serving more than 20 years in prison. The Astro World Festival stage in Houston is now coming down more than a month after the deadly concert. Crew members were seen Wednesday disconnecting light fixtures and wiring from the stage. It was back on November 5th. The crowd stormed the stage during rapper Travis Scott's performance. 10 people died. The setup remained in place while investigators and attorneys collected evidence at the venue. At least 300 lawsuits have been filed against Scott and the event's organizers. Still ahead, a lot of schools switched gears and ran with distance learning today instead of opting for a snow day. So did it work? How the state is responding.
And later in sports, hear from Kyle and Kalani both in response to the Utes and Cougars' early signing classes. Plus, the Jazz hired a household name to lead their front office, all while hoping for some revenge against those Clippers. Back in a bit.
More than 10,000 state employees were asked to work from home today to avoid the impacts of the big snowstorm. And it also forced thousands of school children to learn remotely. Fox 13's Ben Winslow has more from Utah's Capitol Hill.
In this situation, we knew a storm was coming, but it turned out to be worse than what was originally forecasted. So it ended up being a special circumstance day.
Okay. The winter storm that hit northern Utah prompted the state to ask nearly 11,000 employees to work from home.
People who are already remote working or people who maybe are eligible to remote work could then surge work. And that just means like if you're not regularly remote working, but you're eligible to remote work, then you're encouraged to do so.
The legislature passed a law earlier this year allowing some state employees to work remotely. It came out of the COVID-19 pandemic and was designed to apply to bad air quality days.
When there's bad air quality days, we issue out a notification, and then agencies work with their employees, and managers have the discretion to determine who is eligible to then go ahead and work from home.
Because of the storm, a number of school districts also implemented online learning options, ending the concept of a snow day for Utah students. The governor's Office of Planning and Budget says it's still evaluating the overall success of remote work, including cost savings and employee efficiency.
I think it's still a little premature to be able to make those kinds of determinations. We've had mixed feedback in the beginning. It was hard because everyone's trying to figure out how to make it work. But now that we've done it a few times, I think people are starting to get used to it. And we've received some positive feedback to people appreciating the flexibility to have that option to work at home and continue to do their jobs.
Now, the law only applies to state government employees, but the legislature did intend for it to inspire private employers to try it out to help with air quality and now keeping people safe and off the roads. On the Hill, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Winter weather advisories have been issued for our next storm that's going to be arriving in a couple of hours. Up in the mountains, we're mainly looking at 6 to 12 inches of snow. This does include the Wasatch Mountains north and south of I-80 from 2 a.m. tomorrow morning. So overnight tonight through Friday morning. Occasional winter driving is expected for the Cottonwood Canyons, for Parley's Canyon, Logan Summit, Sardine, all of our typical suspects in a slick winter condition. Really going to see the tough driving conditions for the morning commute and evening commute tomorrow across the northern Wasatch Front. So we also have winter weather advisories in place for the Wasatch Front valleys from about the northern interchange up through Ogden, up through Logan. This goes from 2 a.m. tomorrow morning until 8 o'clock tomorrow night. So expect occasional winter driving conditions even down into the valley floors. Right now here in Salt Lake, it's 22 degrees, full visibility. I'll tell you what, if you are having to drive tonight, it's a lot better than it was this time 24 hours ago. However, I don't think we're completely in the clear from last night's storm. Still, some very slick spots remain, so keep that in mind. And we have some frigid temperatures. Feels like 13 for Salt Lake, 11 for Provo, 9 degrees in Ogden. Now, it's probably going to feel kind of funny when you wake up tomorrow morning because it's going to be a little bit warmer than where we are right now. Plus, we have that feels like temp, which makes it feel even colder out there. So tomorrow morning, close to 30 when many of you are first waking up, upper 20s, low 30s. Because we have increasing clouds expected, our next system is incoming right now, just starting to see some of that snow creeping into northwest Utah, just west of the Great Salt Lake. Clear sky across southern Utah. Here's what you can expect when you wake up tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Light snow is going to be starting in a couple of hours for much of the Wasatch Front, all the way down into central Utah first thing tomorrow morning. Throughout the afternoon hours, we could even pull some of this moisture south of I-70. So I think maybe even down to Circleville, we could see some light precipitation out of this. So tomorrow, 4 o'clock, still close to freezing here along the Wasatch Front for Salt Lake, Ogden, and Provo. And let me show you this future cast because we're going to see this moving in here pretty quickly by 6 o'clock in the morning to about 8 o'clock. We've got that chance for some light zone to be developing for our Wasatch Front valleys from central Utah into northern Utah throughout the day tomorrow through Thursday at lunchtime into Thursday afternoon. Then we'll have a break this weekend. Could see some lingering showers into Friday also, but then we're going to have our eyes on middle of next week. Some more chances for snow to return to the region just a few days before Christmas. Future snow from now until Friday at 11 a.m. We've got the chance for another half a foot of snow here in the valleys, especially the northern Wasatch Front valleys. Up in the mountains, mainly 6 to 12 inches of snow. And then our precipitation outlooks for days 6 to 10, so about a week and a half out. We are trending wet in days 6 to 10, and we're also trending wet in days 8 to 14, so we will continue with some active weather here out west. St. George in the 40s through this weekend, 50s return next week for Christmas week. Here in Salt Lake, 30s through this weekend, 40s by next Monday.
Danny Ainge has spent the majority of his career in Boston. Then again, the BYU product has always been a Utah guy at heart. And after finally parting ways with the Celtics organization over the summer, rumor was that Ainge would eventually get enticed to join the Jazz, but more like on a part-time basis as an advisor or something like that. It turns out it was much bigger than that, though. Ainge set to run the whole basketball operations going forward. His official title is CEO or alternate governor, essentially taking on the role once had by Dennis Lindsey. Justin Zanuck will remain as Utah's general manager. Danny has a championship resume with the Celtics, winning titles both as a player and as an executive, something the Jazz organization continues to lack. Speaking of those Jazz, they faced the Clippers for the first time since that depressing Game 6 last June. Tight game before the break when Bogey fires up Bojan Bogdanovic with not one but a pair of triples to end the half. He was 4 for 4 from three country going into the locker room. Donovan Mitchell adding to the lead in the third. Utah eyeing its NBA best 8th straight victory tonight, up comfortably right now in the third. An in-state battle in Ogden tonight. Utah State riding Brighton's own Brock Miller in the first half to open up a big advantage on Weber State. Here he is again, a season-high 20 for Miller on 8 of 11 from the field. The Wildcats with a flush to begin half two. J.J. Overton in the clear to cut their deficit to a dozen, but they never got much closer thanks to Stephen Ashworth, the sophomore out of Lone Peak, burning the Cats around every turn. Nice backdoor reverse. He shattered his career high with 25 off the bench. USU by 15 to improve to 8-3. Weber drops to 9-2. A big honor went to Dixie State men's basketball coach John Judkins tonight. His Trailblazers beating up on Sagu American Indian College. The Lehigh native Noah Gonzalez there dialing up. Then later, Frank Stain steal feeds Cameron Gooden. On top of Dixie winning their 5th straight, Judkins now becomes the all-time winningest coach in Utah college basketball history, either men's or women's, with victory number 582. It was early signing day for the Utes and Cougars and Aggies. The official classes will not finalize until February. For Kyle Whittingham, his biggest recruiting prizes may have come at the linebacker spot with Lander Barton and Justin Medlock. Whit's secret? Well, that Rose Bowl bid did not hurt.
The best thing you can do for recruiting and the thing that can make the biggest impact is winning. You know, it's great to have coaches that can evaluate and that can develop relationships with players. But if you want to say what is the one thing that boosts recruiting more than anything else, it's winning. And I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Meanwhile, BYU scored the best class of the Kalani Sitake era today, signing 19 players, including 5-star Oregon transfer Kingsley Suamataia and 4-star receiver out of Corner Canyon, Cody Hagan.
There's a number of players that are going to be contributors and can compete for starting spots right away. And there's others that are, we're going to see in the future after missions, which is not new to what we do here in our program.
Of course, he had to do that press conference from Shreveport, Louisiana, because the Cougars have a bowl game.
Preparing
For right now.
Getting ready for that and many seasons to come with those new recruits.
The future and the present, Yep.
Thanks, Morgan. We'll be right back. A Christmas away from family and friends can be tough for anyone, but especially for parents with newborns in the neonatal intensive care unit. And that's why nurses and staff at Intermountain Primary Children's Hospital are making sure the tiniest of patients don't miss a visit from Santa. Staff and volunteers pose with them for the My First Christmas pictures, just like Santa would.
I think for most families, they don't get a complete family Christmas photo, and this is a way that they can kind of incorporate baby that's in the NICU with their full Christmas cards that they send out to family.
Special pictures. Nurses say these photos are an important and fun part for caring for the newborn babies and their families during the holidays. So sweet. 10 more days for everyone else before Santa makes his big arrival. Quick Cast is next, everyone. Stick around.